The air crackled with tension on the edge of Silicon Valley, where a sleek, glass-walled tech campus stood frozen in chaos. A delivery truck screeched to a halt, its tires spitting gravel as Lena Carter, a 28-year-old black woman with a no-nonsense glare, leapt out. Her uniform was creased from a long shift, but her eyes burned with focus. The campus, home to Next Tech Innovations, was a war zone of shouting engineers, blinking drones, and a malfunctioning AI system that had grounded an entire fleet of delivery drones. The sky above buzzed with the eerie hum of machines stuck mid-flight, their lights flickering like dying stars. Lena's gaze locked on the scene, 20 engineers, mostly white, mostly male, scrambling around a central control hub, their laptops open, their voices shrill with panic. A massive LED screen flashed red, blaring system failure in bold letters. Lena's heart raced. She wasn't supposed to be here, not like this. Her job was to drop off packages, not fix tech disasters. But something about the chaos pulled her in. She'd seen systems fail before, not in labs, but in her life. Growing up in Oakland, she'd learned to spot patterns in chaos, to fix what others overlooked. This wasn't her world, but it felt like her fight. She stepped closer, her boots crunching on the gravel. A wooden signpost near the hub caught her eye, weathered but sturdy, with a small, bold message painted in gold, outlined in black, "Trust your instinct." It wasn't screaming for attention, just there, steady, like a whisper meant only for her. The words hit her like a jolt. She didn't know why, but they felt personal. "Hey, you. Delivery." A voice barked. A lanky engineer with glasses, Ethan Caldwell, barely glanced at her. "Packages go to the front desk. We're busy here." His tone dripped with dismissal, his eyes flicking back to his screen. Lena's jaw tightened. She'd heard that tone before too many times. It wasn't just about the packages. It was about her. Her skin. Her place. "I'm not blind," she snapped, her voice low but sharp. "Your drones are crashing. I can see it from here." Ethan blinked, caught off guard. But before he could respond, a woman in a crisp blazer stormed over. Dr. Rachel Nguyen, the project lead, was a legend in AI development, but her face was a mask of stress. "Who are you?" she demanded, her eyes narrowing. "This is a restricted area." "Lena Carter. I deliver your coffee and your gadgets," Lena said, unflinching. "And I know a broken system when I see one." The crowd around them hushed, heads turning. A few engineers snickered, but others stared, curious. Rachel's brow furrowed, but something in Lena's voice calm, certain made her pause. "Fine," Rachel said, her voice clipped. "You think you know something? Tell us. We've been at this for hours." The challenge hung in the air, heavy as the drones overhead. Lena didn't hesitate. She stepped toward the control hub, her mind racing. She wasn't an engineer, but she'd spent years tinkering with her brother's old computers, fixing her mom's ancient router, solving problems no one else could. This was bigger, but it felt the same. She scanned the hub's interface, a mess of code and error logs. The engineers hovered, skeptical, but Lena tuned them out. Her fingers hovered over the keyboard, then typed a single command. The screen flickered. A low murmur rippled through the crowd. "What's she doing?" someone whispered. Ethan scoffed, folding his arms. "She's gonna crash it worse." Lena ignored him. Her eyes caught a pattern in the logs of feedback loop, subtle but deadly, clogging the AI's decision-making. It was like a car engine choking on bad fuel. She'd seen it before, not in code, but in people. In systems. In life. Your AI's overthinking, she said, her voice steady. It's stuck in a loop, trying to optimize a dead-end path. Rachel leaned closer, skeptical but intrigued. And you know this how? Because I've seen it, Lena said simply. Your system's fighting itself. It's not the hardware, it's the logic. She typed another command, rerouting the AI's priorities. The screen blinked green for a split second, then red again. The drones above wobbled, then steadied. The crowd gasped. She's not wrong. A younger engineer, Maya, muttered, her eyes glued to the screen. Ethan's face reddened. This is ridiculous, he spat. She's a delivery driver, not a coder. The word driver landed like a slur, and Lena's fists clenched. She turned to face him, her voice ice cold. Say that again, and I'll fix your attitude next. The tension spiked, the air thick with unspoken prejudice. Rachel stepped between them, her eyes darting from Lena to the screen. Enough, she said. Lena, keep going. Show me. Lena nodded, her focus razor-sharp. She typed faster, her commands slicing through the code like a knife. The drones began to move, slowly at first, then with purpose. The crowd's murmurs grew louder, a mix of awe and disbelief. This wasn't just about drones. It was about being seen, being heard. Lena felt the weight of every glance, every whisper, every doubt. She wasn't supposed to be here, but she was. And she wasn't leaving until she fixed this. The control hub hummed under Lena's fingers, her focus unyielding as the drones above began to stabilize. The crowd's murmurs grew into a low roar, a mix of shock and skepticism. Ethan's glare burned into her back, but Lena didn't flinch. She'd faced worse than his resentment store clerks who followed her, cops who questioned her presence, neighbors who crossed the street when she passed. This wasn't new. It was just louder. Rachel stood beside her, arms crossed, her eyes flicking between the screen and Lena's hands. Explain what you're doing, she said, her tone sharp but curious. Lena didn't look up. Your AI's caught in a recursive trap, she said. It's trying to solve a problem that doesn't exist anymore. Like a dog chasing its tail. She pointed to a line of code flashing on the screen. This subroutine, it's redundantly checking the drone's altitude against a faulty sensor input. I'm bypassing it. Maya, the young engineer, nodded, her eyes wide. That's actually possible, she said, almost to herself. Ethan snorted. Possible. She's guessing. We've been debugging this for hours. You think she just waltzes in and sees what we missed? His voice carried, and a few engineers nodded, their faces tight with doubt. Lena's fingers paused. She turned, her eyes locking onto Ethan's. I don't waltz, she said, her voice low and steady. I work. And I see things you don't because you're too busy looking down. The words landed like a slap, and Ethan's face flushed. The crowd shifted, uneasy. Rachel raised a hand. Focus, she said, her voice cutting through the tension. Lena, keep going. Lena turned back to the screen, her heart pounding but her hands steady. She typed another command, rerouting the AI's logic to ignore the faulty sensor. The drones above shifted, their lights blinking in unison. A cheer erupted from the crowd, but it was cut short as the screen flashed red again. Damn it, Lena muttered under her breath. The system wasn't fully clear yet. Something deeper was wrong. Rachel leaned in, her voice low. You're close, but you're missing something. The drones are stabilizing, but the core AI's still fighting your changes. Lena nodded, her mind racing. She wasn't a coder. Not formally. But she'd taught herself enough to fix her brother's busted laptop when they couldn't afford a new one. She'd rewired her mom's old router to keep their internet running. She knew systems show they broke, how they hid their flaws. She scanned the logs again, her eyes catching a faint discrepancy in the data flow. There, she said, pointing to a string of numbers. The AI's pulling from an outdated database. It's cross-referencing old flight paths. Rachel's eyes widened. How did you? Pattern recognition. Lena cut in. I see it every day. People. Systems. They both get stuck in old habits. She typed a new command, forcing the AI to refresh its database. The screen flickered, then held steady on green. The drones above began to move in smooth, coordinated arcs. The crowd erupted, a mix of cheers and gasps. Ethan stepped forward, his voice sharp. This is a fluke. She's not trained for this. He stopped as Rachel shot him a look that could cut glass. She's doing what you couldn't. Rachel said. Stand down. Ethan. The crowd went silent, the weight of her words sinking in. Lena felt a surge of pride, but kept her focus on the screen. This wasn't over. She typed another command, locking the AI's new parameters. The drones formed a perfect grid in the sky, their lights pulsing like a heartbeat. The crowd's cheers grew louder, but Lena's eyes caught something else, a faint error code buried in the logs. It was small, almost invisible, but it screamed trouble. There's another issue, she said, her voice cutting through the noise. Rachel frowned. What now? The system's stable, but it's masking a deeper flaw, Lena said. Something in the core code. If we don't fix it, this happens again tomorrow. The crowd quieted, the weight of her words sinking in. Rachel nodded, her expression grim. Show me. Lena's fingers flew across the keyboard, diving into the AI's core. She wasn't just fighting a machine, now she was fighting doubt, prejudice, and the weight of being the only one who saw the truth. And she wasn't backing down. Lena's fingers danced across the keyboard, her eyes narrowing as she dug deeper into the AI's core code. The crowd's cheers faded into a tense hum, their excitement replaced by curiosity and unease. The drones hovered above, their lights steady, but Lena knew better than to trust the calm. The error code she'd spotted wasn't just a glitch, it was a fracture, a crack in the system's foundation that could bring it all down again. She felt the weight of every stare, every whispered doubt, but she pushed it aside. This wasn't about them. It was about the truth. Rachel stood close, her breath shallow. What's the problem? She asked, her voice low but urgent. Lena pointed to the screen, where a string of code pulsed like a warning. This modulate's overriding your updates. It's like the AI's got a mind of its own, fighting to keep the old settings. Rachel's eyes widened. That's the fail-safe protocol. It's supposed to prevent unauthorized changes. It's preventing all changes, Lena said, including the ones saving your drones. She typed a command to isolate the module, her movements precise. The screen flickered, and a new error popped up, access denied. The crowd murmured, and Ethan's voice cut through. Told you. She's in over her head. Lena's jaw clenched, but she didn't turn. She didn't have time for his noise. Maya stepped forward, her voice quiet but firm. She's not wrong. I've seen this before. The failsafe's too aggressive, it's locking us out. Ethan scoffed, but Rachel silenced him with a glance. Lena, can you bypass it? She asked. Lena nodded, her mind racing. She'd bypassed locks before, not digital ones, but real ones. when her family's apartment got padlocked during a rough month. She'd learned to think like the lock, to find its weak point. This was no different. She typed a series of commands, probing the failsafe's logic. It was stubborn, but not unbreakable. "It's using an old encryption key," she said, almost to herself. "If I can spoof the key, I can override it." Rachel blinked. "You know encryption?" Lena gave a half smile. "I know enough to keep my mom's Wi-Fi from getting hacked." The crowd chuckled, breaking the tension, but Lena stayed focused. Her fingers moved faster, crafting a temporary key to trick the system. The screen flashed, access granted. The crowd gasped, but Lena didn't stop. She dove into the failsafe's code, rewriting its parameters to accept her changes. The drones above shifted again, their movements smoother, more confident. The LED screen glowed green. Steady now. No flickers. Rachel exhaled, her shoulders relaxing. "You did it," she said, almost in disbelief. But Lena shook her head. "Not yet. There's still a deeper issue. The failsafe's just a symptom. Something's corrupting the core AI." She pointed to a new set of logs, buried deep in the system. "This isn't a glitch, it's deliberate. Someone's been tampering." The crowd went silent, the air heavy with shock. Ethan's face paled. "Tampering?" he stammered. "That's impossible. Our security's airtight." Lena turned to him, her eyes sharp. "Nothing's airtight if you're not looking in the right places." Her words hung heavy, and for the first time, Ethan didn't argue. Rachel's voice was steel. "Lena, find it. Now." Lena nodded, her fingers flying again. She traced the corruption, following a trail of altered code that led to a hidden subroutine. It was clever, disguised as routine maintenance, but it was sabotage designed to make the AI fail at the worst moment. Lena's heart pounded. This wasn't just a tech problem anymore. It was personal. "Who has access to this level?" Lena asked, her voice steady but cold. Rachel hesitated, her eyes flicking to the team. "Only senior engineers," she said. "And me." The crowd shifted, suspicion rippling through them. Lena kept her eyes on the screen, but she felt the tension spike. Someone here wasn't who they seemed. She typed faster, isolating the subroutine. The drones above hummed, oblivious to the storm brewing below. Lena wasn't just fixing a system, now she was unmasking a traitor. And she was ready to fight. The air on the Next Tech campus grew thick, the crowd's murmurs now a low, uneasy buzz. Lena's fingers hovered over the keyboard, her eyes locked on the screen as she traced the sabotage buried in the AI's core. The subroutine was a masterpiece of deception, woven into the code like a virus hiding in plain sight. Whoever planted it knew the system better than anyone, better than Rachel, better than the 20 engineers now staring at Lena with a mix of awe and fear. The drones above droned on, their lights steady, but the real battle was here, in the lines of code and the unspoken accusations hanging in the air. Rachel's voice was tight. "Lena, what are we looking at?" Lena didn't look up. "Someone's been rewriting the AI's decision-making protocols," she said. "It's subtle, designed to look like a glitch. But it's not. It's meant to crash the system during peak operations." She pointed to a line of code. It's timestamped fresh to fresh. "This was added last night." The crowd gasped, and Rachel's face hardened. "Last night. We were all here, running diagnostics." Her eyes scanned the team, lingering on Ethan, who shifted uncomfortably. "Who was on duty?" she asked, her voice sharp. Maya raised a hand, hesitant. "I was, but I didn't touch the core protocols." I swear. Her voice trembled, but her eyes were clear. Lena kept working, her focus unyielding. She cross-referenced the subroutine's signature with the system's access logs. It's not you, Maya, she said, her voice calm but firm. The signature's encrypted, but it's tied to a senior-level account. She typed a command, pulling up a list of recent logins. One name stood out, Ethan Caldwell. The crowd's murmurs grew louder, and Ethan's face went white. That's impossible, he shouted, stepping forward. I didn't do anything. His voice cracked, but his eyes darted to the side, betraying him. Lena's gut twisted. She'd seen that look before on people caught lying, on streets where trust was a luxury. She didn't trust him, but she needed proof. Calm down, Ethan, Rachel said, her voice icy. Lena, keep going. Lena nodded, her fingers flying as she decrypted the signature. The code unraveled, revealing a digital fingerprint that matched Ethan's credentials. The crowd's gasps turned to shouts, and Ethan's face twisted with panic. This is a setup, he yelled. She's framing me. She's not even supposed to be here. Lena's hands froze, her eyes snapping to his. Framing you, she said, her voice low and dangerous. I've been delivering your packages for 2 years, and you've never once looked me in the eye. Now you're accusing me. The crowd went silent, the weight of her words sinking in. Ethan's mouth opened, but no words came out. Rachel stepped forward, her voice cutting through the tension. Lena, finish it. Lena turned back to the screen, her heart pounding. She isolated the subroutine and deleted it, replacing it with a clean version of the protocol. The drones above shifted, their movements smoother, faster. The LED screen glowed green, and a cheer erupted from the crowd, louder than before. But Lena wasn't done. She pulled up the access logs again, digging deeper. The sabotage wasn't just Ethan's war kit was too sophisticated, too layered. Someone else had helped, someone with even higher access. Her eyes flicked to Rachel, who was watching her closely. There's another signature, Lena said, her voice steady. It's buried deeper, but it's there. Rachel's face didn't change, but her eyes flickered with something fear. Maybe, or guilt. Keep digging, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. Lena nodded, her fingers moving again. The crowd was on edge, their cheers replaced by a tense silence. The drones hummed above, but the real storm was brewing below. Lena wasn't just fighting a system, now she was fighting for the truth, and she was closer than ever to unmasking it. The next tech campus was a pressure cooker, the crowd's silence heavier than their earlier cheers. Lena's fingers flew across the keyboard, chasing the second signature buried in the AI's code. The drones above moved in perfect sync, their lights painting the night sky, but Lena's focus was razor-sharp on the screen. The sabotage wasn't just Ethan's doing, she'd already exposed his role, but this second layer was deeper, more insidious. Whoever was behind it had power, access, and a reason to hide. Rachel stood beside her, her face unreadable, but her hands clenched tight. What do you see? She asked, her voice low, almost brittle. Lena pointed to a faint trace in the logs, a ghost of a command embedded in the system's core. This, she said, it's not just a subroutine. It's a backdoor, designed to let someone override the AI remotely. The crowd murmured, the word backdoor rippling through them like a curse. Ethan, still reeling from being called out, shouted, she's making this up. She's trying to cover her tracks. But his voice was drowned out by the crowd's growing unease. Maya stepped closer, her eyes locked on the screen. That's Advanced, she said, her voice shaky. Only someone with admin-level access could plant that. Her gaze flicked to Rachel, then away, but Lena caught it. Lena's heart pounded. She wasn't just unraveling code, now she was unraveling trust. She typed a command to trace the backdoor's origin, her mind racing. The signature was encrypted, but she recognized the pattern. It was deliberate, meticulous, like a lock she'd once picked to get into her family's apartment after a landlord's eviction threat. She cracked the encryption, and a name flashed on the screen, Rachel Nguyen. The crowd gasped, a collective intake of breath that sucked the air from the scene. Rachel's face didn't change, but her eyes darkened. "That's impossible," she said, her voice steady but cold. "You're mistaken, Lena." Lena didn't flinch. "The code doesn't lie," she said. "This backdoor's tied to your credentials. You've got admin access. You were here last night." The crowd erupted, voices clashing in confusion and anger. Ethan seized the moment, pointing at Lena. "See? She's throwing blame everywhere. She's not one of us." The word stung, but Lena kept her eyes on Rachel. "I'm not throwing blame," she said. "I'm showing you the truth." Rachel's composure cracked, just for a second. "You don't understand," she said, her voice low. "This project's bigger than you know. There are pressures, investors, competitors." She trailed off, but Lena didn't let up. "Pressures don't justify sabotage," she said. "You built this AI. You knew its weaknesses, and you used them." The crowd was shouting now, some defending Rachel, others demanding answers. Lena typed another command, locking the backdoor and rerouting the AI's controls to a secure channel. The drones above shifted again, their lights brighter, their movements flawless. The LED screen glowed green, and the crowd's shouts turned to cheers. But Lena felt no triumph. She'd exposed the truth, but it came at a cost. Rachel stepped back, her face pale. "You don't know what you've done," she whispered. Lena met her gaze. "I know exactly what I've done," she said. "I fixed your mess." The crowd's cheers grew louder, but Lena felt the weight of their stares, some grateful, some resentful, some still doubting her because of who she was. She wasn't just a delivery driver anymore. She was a threat, a force, a truth teller. And the fight wasn't over. The next tech campus was a storm of noise, cheers clashing with shouts of disbelief as Lena stood at the control hub, the green glow of the screen illuminating her face. The drones above danced in perfect formation, their lights cutting through the night like a victory. But Lena's victory felt hollow. She'd exposed Rachel's backdoor, locked it, and saved the system. But the crowd's eyes told a different story. Some saw a hero. Others saw an outsider who dared to upend their world. Ethan's voice still echoed in her head. "She's not one of us." It wasn't just about the code. It was about her. Rachel stood frozen, her face a mask of defiance and shame. "You don't understand the stakes," she said, her voice barely audible over the crowd. "This project was our future. You've ruined it." Lena's eyes narrowed. "I didn't ruin anything," she said. "You did that when you planted a backdoor." The crowd quieted, straining to hear. Rachel's hands trembled, but she didn't back down. "You think it's that simple? You think you can just walk in here and judge me?" "I'm not judging," Lena said, her voice steady. "I'm showing you what's real. You built a system to fail. Why?" The question hung heavy, and Rachel's silence was an answer in itself. The crowd's murmurs grew louder, a mix of anger and confusion. Maya stepped forward, her voice shaking but clear. "Rachel, is it true? Did you sabotage your own project? Rachel's eyes flicked to Maya, then to the crowd. You don't know what it's like, she said, her voice breaking. The pressure investors breathing down my neck. Competitors stealing our tech. I had to protect us. Her words were a confession, raw and desperate. The crowd erupted, some shouting in betrayal, others in disbelief. Lena felt a pang of sympathy, but it didn't soften her resolve. Protect us, Lena said, stepping closer. You put everyone at risk, your team, your company, the people those drones serve. You didn't protect. You betrayed. The words cut deep, and Rachel flinched. The crowd's shouts grew louder, but Lena's focus shifted back to the screen. The system was stable, but she needed to ensure it stayed that way. She typed a final set of commands, encrypting the AI's core to prevent further tampering. The drones above pulsed brighter, their movements a silent testament to her work. The crowd's cheers swelled, but Lena felt the weight of their earlier doubts. She wasn't one of them, not in their eyes. She was the black delivery driver who dared to outshine their best. Ethan pushed through the crowd, his face twisted with rage. This is a circus, he shouted. She's not qualified. She's turning us against each other. A few engineers nodded, their faces tight with resentment. But Maya stepped forward, her voice firm. She saved us. Ethan. You didn't. None of us did. The crowd split, some cheering for Lena, others glaring at her like she'd stolen something. Rachel raised a hand, silencing the noise. Enough, she said, her voice hollow. Lena, you've done more than I expected. She paused, her eyes meeting Lena's. But you've started something you can't control. Lena didn't flinch. I didn't start this, she said. I'm just finishing it. The crowd's cheers drowned out Rachel's response. But Lena saw the truth in her eyes: fear, regret, and something deeper, something broken. Lena turned back to the screen, her heart heavy but her resolve unbroken. She'd fix the system, but the real fight was just beginning. The crowd saw her now, but would they ever truly see her? The next tech campus glowed under the drone lights, but the air was heavy with fallout. Lena stood at the control hub, her hands still on the keyboard, the green screen a quiet victory against the chaos. The crowd's cheers had fractured into factions, some chanting her name, others whispering accusations. She'd saved the system, exposed the sabotage, but the truth had torn open wounds deeper than code. Rachel's confession hung like smoke, and Ethan's resentment fueled the crowd's division. Lena felt the weight of it all, but she stood tall, her eyes steady. Rachel stepped back, her face pale but composed. You've made your point, Lena, she said, her voice low. But this isn't over. You've exposed me, but you've also exposed Nextech. The investors won't forgive this. Lena met her gaze. They'll forgive you less for lying, she said. You built this system. You broke it. I just fixed it. The crowd's murmurs grew louder, some nodding in agreement, others shaking their heads. Maya approached, her eyes bright with admiration. Lena, how did you know all this? The patterns, the backdoor. You saw what we missed. Lena gave a small shrug, her voice soft but firm. I've spent my life seeing what people overlook. You learn to spot the cracks when no one else does. Ethan pushed forward again, his voice sharp. This is a setup. She's playing you all. But his words lacked power now, drowned by the crowd's shifting tide. A senior engineer, an older man named Tom, stepped up. Enough, Ethan, he said. She did what we couldn't. Let it go. Ethan's face reddened, but he backed off. the crowd's support slipping away. Rachel turned to the team, her voice steady despite the strain. "We need to shut down the system for a full audit," she said. "Lena's fixed the immediate issue, but we can't risk another failure." The crowd nodded, some reluctantly, others with relief. Lena stepped back from the hub, her work done, but her heart heavy. She'd won, but at what cost? As the engineers began dispersing, Rachel approached Lena, her expression unreadable. "You've got talent," she said quietly. "More than most of my team. But you've made enemies today." Lena nodded, unsurprised. "I'm used to it," she said. "Comes with the territory." Rachel's eyes softened, just for a moment. "It shouldn't," she said, then turned away. Lena walked back to her truck, the crowd's eyes following her. Some clapped, some whispered, but she felt the divide: admiration tainted by resentment, gratitude shadowed by prejudice. She glanced at the wooden signpost she'd seen earlier, its gold-lettered message still glowing under the lights. "Trust your instinct." It felt like a lifeline, a reminder of why she'd stepped into this fight. As she climbed into her truck, Maya ran up, breathless. "Lena, wait," she said. "What you did, it's incredible. Can we talk? I want to learn from you." Lena hesitated, then gave a small smile. "Sure," she said. "But I've got deliveries to finish." Maya grinned, undeterred. "I'll find you," she said, and Lena believed her. The truck's engine roared to life, and Lena pulled away, the campus fading in her rearview mirror. She'd fixed their system, exposed their secrets, but the real work was ahead: changing minds, breaking barriers, proving she belonged. The fight wasn't over, but for the first time, Lena felt ready. Lena's truck rumbled down the highway, the Silicon Valley skyline shrinking behind her. The adrenaline of the next tech chaos still pulsed in her veins, but a quiet resolve had settled in her chest. She'd walked into a world that didn't want her, fixed what they couldn't, and left with her head high. The crowd's cheers echoed in her mind, but so did their whispers, their doubts, their stares. She wasn't naive enough to think one victory would change everything, but it was a start. Back at the delivery depot, she parked and stepped out, the night air cool against her skin. Her phone buzzed a message from Maya. "You're a legend. Let's grab coffee." "I'm serious." Lena smiled, a flicker of warmth breaking through her fatigue. She typed back, "Only if it's strong." "I'm not done yet." She meant it. Not just the deliveries, but the fight, the one she'd been in her whole life. Against doors closed, voices silenced, chances denied. The next morning, news of the Next Tech incident spread like wildfire. Local blogs called her the delivery driver who saved Silicon Valley. Social media buzzed with her story, some praising her brilliance, others questioning her place in a tech giant's crisis. The comments stung. She got lucky. She doesn't belong there. Affirmative action stunt. But for every jab, there were voices lifting her up, especially from communities like hers, people who knew what it meant to be underestimated. By noon, a Next Tech representative called, offering her a meeting with their CEO. Lena hesitated, her instincts sharp. She wasn't chasing their approval, she'd already earned it. But she agreed, curious to see what they'd say. The meeting was brief, professional, and loaded with subtext. The CEO, a polished man named Greg Larson, praised her quick thinking but sidestepped Rachel's sabotage. "We'd love to have you consult," he said, his smile too perfect. Lena saw through Ida token gesture, a way to control the narrative. She declined politely, her voice firm. "I'm good where I am," she said. "But fix your system. And your culture." Days later, Rachel resigned, her statement citing personal reasons. Ethan was reassigned. His role diminished. Maya kept in touch, sharing updates about next tech as overhaul new security protocols, diversity training, a push to hire beyond the usual elite. Lena didn't trust it fully, but it was progress. She kept delivering packages, her routes unchanged, but her perspective sharper. Every stop, every nod from a customer, felt like a small rebellion against the world that tried to box her in. One evening, Lena stopped at a community center in Oakland, where kids tinkered with old computers. She started volunteering, teaching them to code, to see patterns, to trust their instincts. One girl, a shy 12-year-old named Aisha, reminded Lena of herself, curious, underestimated, hungry to prove something. "You think I can do this?" Aisha asked, her eyes wide. Lena knelt beside her, pointing to the screen. "You can do anything," she said. "Just don't let them tell you where you belong." The next tech story faded from the headlines, but Lena's impact didn't. She wasn't a hero in their world, but she was in hers. She'd fixed more than a system. She'd cracked open a door, not just for herself, but for others who'd been told they didn't fit. The fight was far from over, but Lena Carter was ready for it. One delivery, one truth, one instinct at a time.